to come and speak to the nation. You know, Minister Mthethwa is responsible for arts, culture, and sports. Nyambos.
Thank you so much, my colleague, Minister Mthethwa. Good afternoon to everyone, members of the media and my colleagues here with me. Allow me, Program Director, before I proceed with the business of the day, to pay tribute and salute the fallen father of indigenous knowledge in this country, Baba Ukredo Mutwa, Isanusi. May his soul rest in eternal peace. The President of the Republic, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, in his address to the nation on the 15th of March 2020, declared the spread of coronavirus a national disaster. This declaration necessitated the implementation of measures to mitigate the challenges. Amongst the measures announced by the President was to limit gatherings to less than 100 people. This necessary measure was a fatal blow to the sector, since it depends on numbers for it to survive, be it the gigs, its concerts, festivals, sporting matches, and so on. We made a point at the time, and we are reiterating now, that the sporting and creative sectors are going to be the hardest hit by these critically important measures. I can't think of any sector which needs support and solidarity of all South Africans across the board to ensure that in these insane times we preserve our sanity than the sector of sporting and creative. Subsequent to the address by the President, we convened sectoral meetings and a number of issues were discussed and suggestions made on how to mitigate the impact of this pandemic. On the sporting front, for instance, they shared with us actions that they've already taken to respond positively to the call by the President even before he made the call. This includes, amongst others, the postponements, cancellation of matches. In the final analysis, the sporting fraternity made suggestions on how to address the challenges brought by the outbreak of COVID-19. The cultural and creative sector remains in desperate situation as a result of the declaration. They have made suggestions on how to deal with the situation. And these are the following suggestions. One, that we all explore the utilization of the fourth industrial revolution on live performances with no audiences, the live streaming. Also suggested that we engage the private sector, especially the financial services sector, for the relief they sorely need on such things as house and car mortgages, rents, and other installments. They also wanted government to give direction on athletes who are trapped abroad in countries of Europe, across Europe, and the US. We also were asked to engage our sister Department of Communications to avail platforms for key individuals in the sectors to send messages of hope and awareness on coronavirus emphasizing on indigenous languages. And also to ensure that the public broadcaster is biased in favor of local content, especially during this time. This will go a long way in alleviating the plight of artists and athletes. In this meeting, we also had the presence of organized formations in the sector such as the national federations, all the national federations in sport, and the confederation, SASCOC. On the side of the cultural and creative sector, we had Federation of Creatives, the Creative and Cultural Industries Federation of South Africa, known as CIFSA. We also had, and we thought it was important that we bring in collecting societies, the likes of SAMBRO, of IMBRA, of SAMBRA, of CAPASO, who all have made commitments to play their part. I must, ladies and gentlemen, say here that the one CAPASO for composers, authors, publishers have already made a concrete suggestion that instead of waiting for people to get their royalties around June or September, they are prepared to do that during this coming month, which is April. And they would make a plea to all of them to follow suit to ensure that we really assist the sector. These are people who depend on all of us to come to their shows, but more than just attending their shows. These are human treasures, people who are able to navigate difficult circumstances, make us feel better as humanity. So the assistance and solidarity for them would be requested across the board, public sector, collecting societies, private sector, everyone else who are making a call that let us ensure that those who make the nation to be what it is, to be very close to its soul, to be very close to its identity, are assisted. So all these suggestions meant one thing. They boiled down to a question of the need for resources. So we had to look around as the department and see what is it that we can secure to ensure that we made our humble contribution in the attempt to mitigate and soften the impact of this pandemic we're faced with. We have redirected the allocation at the national level to avail 150 million rands to provide the much needed relief to practitioners in the sector. We've also engaged our colleagues, the MECs in provinces, that we need to find a way of topping up what we have so that we give that hand to our creatives, particularly and athletes. I must say that as a result of what they raised with the private sector, government did engage private sector, particularly the financial services sector, and we've seen commitments from that front that we're not going to see a situation where people are chased out of their homes or flats because they couldn't secure employment this time around. And that for us, we appreciate. But we also say that broader in the private sector, let us make our contribution from different angles. So these allocated funds are the funds for the first quarter in the new financial year. And we know by now that the kind of programs were to fund during this quarter are not going to be funded because we're trapped in this pandemic. Priority will be given to artists and practitioners who were already booked by some of the cancelled and postponed events funded by the department, as well as to the legends of the industry. For the audiovisual sector, already over 25 TV productions have been postponed, possibly to be cancelled by broadcasters. About 15 live shows have been cancelled. And I must emphasize this because this is where the creatives make their living, in particular with the live shows. The department, together with the Department of Communication, are engaging broadcasters and producers to ensure that we meet this very important sector in our society and the practitioners thereof. We also made partnerships with our playhouses around the country as spaces which are going to be utilized by the creatives for their work. And part of what we have set aside is to ensure that the creatives do not pay for their utilization of the spaces, which is much more needed. We'll avail artists a platform to perform live streaming activities, which includes, amongst others, stand-up comedy, poetry session, music, and so forth. This will be done to keep people entertained, to showcase the work of the creatives, and to promote local content across all art genres. The department will commission service providers in the digital space to curate new programs in all disciplines to ensure that artists continue to do their work. The department will share details of plans on the process for participation. The National Video Foundation, the National Film, NFVF, the National Film and Video Foundation will offer immediate relief to practitioners in the film industry by prioritizing and making payments to beneficiaries that have submitted milestones in the past 2 weeks on an urgent basis. Beneficiaries who have yet to submit milestones over the next 3 months will also be paid. NFVF also intends to release a call for development, post-production, animation, and archive by the end of this week, which will ordinarily have only been released in August. The aim of this exercise is to ensure that normal processes are applied to all applications, including council approvals, by the 10th of June to keep the industry going. The foundation will further reprioritize funding earmarked for the film festivals which have been cancelled and realizing them for an early production in September 2020. As part of Slate's program, which benefits young emerging producers, the NFVF has further identified a savings of 4.5 million rands from the current fiscal, which will be used as part of the relief program. NFVF will provide a cash injection of 500,000 rands to 9 companies currently commissioned by the organization. This relief will only be contained to the slates currently commissioned by the institution and would be extended to anyone else in the industry. On the key messages, the department further calls upon both public and private broadcasters to lend a hand in the relief program towards the sector by paying more locally produced content to enable artists to earn royalties and to show patriotism towards their country. Part of the department's education and awareness program is to share messages about COVID-19, but also to communicate messages that will bring courage and hope to South African citizens that we are a resilient country and we can triumph in spite of this pandemic. Through our campaign, we will be sending out a strong message that carries many voices. This we will attain by commissioning young and upcoming artists, renowned artists, and our legends to curate via their respective social media platform. Thank you for your attention.
Enkosi Nyambos, siyabonga baba. Before we have the next speaker, we just want to sort out something, Minister. Net kancinci nje. Ayifaki ibe enhle lento. Ufuna ukuthi ibe enhle le background.